Hey, welcome back to the channel. My name is Melanie and I'm super jazzed to be here as always. And welcome back to our full moon series where we talk about the different zodiac archetypes that the full moon falls in, the correspondences, and how best to build and work with rituals around those archetypes. Today we're going to be working with the zodiac sign of Aquarius. Like always, I'm going to start with some basic Aquarius facts and explain a little bit about the archetype to you. Then we are going to discuss how to apply that to a full moon and what the full moon might add to this cosmic equation. I'll give you guys a few minutes to do some reflection, maybe lead you through a few journal prompts or self-reflection exercises, and then we'll get into the specific correspondences, things like tarot cards, crystals, rocks, flowers, etc. And I'll finish off this video with a few ritual suggestions and how I might suggest that you work with this archetype. Before we get into the nitty-gritty, I do want to bring up that I am not going to be covering, touching on, or talking about any other transiting planets, just working with the Aquarius archetype and a full moon. So the Aquarius archetype, everybody is always very surprised if they are not versed in the zodiac or astrology world that Aquarius is actually an air sign, not a water sign. Its astrological glyph, or some of the symbolism and story around Aquarius, it is represented by a maiden pouring out a jug full of water into a stream. So a lot of people will get confused, and Aquarius, aqua, water. It is not, in fact, a water sign. Aquarius is an air sign. Not only is it an air sign, but it's a fixed air sign. Being a fixed air sign means that it's probably the most stable in a sense, but it's not necessarily good at adapting. It is good at adapting because it's an air sign, but it's the least good at adapting out of the air signs. Its planetary ruler is Saturn traditionally, or in more modern approaches to astrology, Uranus. Its natural house, or the house it is at home in, is the 11th house. Now there's a lot of symbolism behind Aquarius. It not only has the whole myth of the maiden pouring out the jug of water into the stream, but it's also represented by those two squiggly lines that look like water. This further adds to the confusion of Aquarius being an air sign as opposed to being a water sign. Those two squiggly lines are actually meant to represent two serpents, one being the ego and the other being the soul. This speaks to the archetype's individualization process. And what I mean by that is that Aquarius traits and archetypes, people in general, really want to be viewed as separate. The Aquarius archetype really likes to be viewed as an individual. They definitely are outliers and they tend to be a little bit more recluse. Of course, this is a broad generalization, but the archetype itself tends to get quite eccentric and pursue abstract thoughts and go on really in-depth rabbit holes of intellectual pursuits as opposed to making it to the party on time. Some people get confused about that because the 11th house speaks about humanitarian causes, community, the large collective whole, sometimes even utopian outcomes in the world. And it's definitely in the Aquarius archetype to be a visionary, to be futuristic in the sense that they're always looking to the future, planning, being conscientious and considerate of those in their community so that they could move the collective forward in a positive way. Now there is that paradox, right? How can the Aquarius archetype be so humanitarianly driven but be such a recluse in more personal lives and not necessarily be super social on a one-on-one, get to know you as a close friend, but care so deeply about humanity? And I think that can really come down to the cognitive, mental attributes of being an air sign. They are not necessarily emotionally driven people. They live a lot more cognitively than they do intuitively and emotionally. I'm not saying they are void of these feelings, and I think Aquarius as an archetype gets a bad rap for that a lot of the time. They're accused of being emotionally aloof and detached, but I think it comes down to how they process life. They are cognitive people. They weigh pros and cons. They are intellectually driven, like I said, not emotionally driven. They are not a water sign. And I think more often than not, it makes them uncomfortable to have to navigate those dynamics in close personal relationships, as opposed to being a good person and wanting to collectively move the human race in a good, positive, loving direction. There's a lot less personal buy-in when you are advocating for the whole or for a group or for your community, as opposed to when you're in a personal dynamic and you're trying to advocate for yourself or show up and be emotionally vulnerable. There's a big difference, and the level of emotional buy-in from being a humanitarian and trying to do good in the world by and by, or in close personal relationships showing up and giving your best. They're very different things. And I think Aquarius has the humanitarian portion in the handbasket and can sometimes struggle with the interpersonal dynamics. Like with all things being an air sign, there are positive and negative traits. One of the negative ones, like we just touched on, would be being potentially more aloof emotionally and having a little bit of a harder time relating to people on that emotional level. But being an air sign allows them to be very smart, very quick-witted, very fast, and they communicate well. They are inquisitive, curious. They are on almost always some type of intellectual pursuit, soulful pursuit. They are those individuals and archetypes in the world that become eccentrically fixed on something, and they must simply know the truth. They have to get to the bottom of it. They have to understand it. It is both, again, a blessing and a curse to be so adamant. When they are fixed on something, they're fixed on it. And that ties in to them being a fixed air sign. It's like that concentration focus. The wizard who's in a tower studying astrology for years and never leaves because he simply has to know everything there is to know about it. So there is that balance aspect that comes in. There is the fight between the two snakes. There is the ego and the soul, and having to navigate those waters, as it were, is a tricky thing for Aquarius. But as an archetype as a whole, being a fixed air sign at home in the 11th house, and its planetary ruler being Saturn or Uranus, depending on how you're doing it, there's a lot of, I want to say, polarity in the archetype. They're humanitarians and they care deeply for the world, but they're not emotionally driven people. So in interpersonal close relationships, you might not be able to see that. But a lot of the time, their big intellectual pursuits, how they are moving the collective forward, is out of an act of service to humanity. They want to do better for the world. They want to help lead the world in a good direction. Being the fixed aspect in air, they can definitely get stuck in mental ruts. They have sometimes resistance to change. They are still very good at changing. They're an air sign, but they're not as good at changing as a mutable or the cardinal airs would be, for example. They definitely change quicker than a Taurus earth sign might, but again, it's not the fastest moving of the air signs. That also has to do with its planetary ruler being traditionally Saturn. It's all about restrictions, rules, the order of things, government, how we can say no to build a better foundation, planning, certainty. Saturn is the father in the sky. So having Aquarius be not only a fixed sign, but have its planetary ruler be Saturn, there's a lot of intensity and restriction, and not just restriction, but discipline. Discipline is a good word when you're looking at a fixed sign ruled by Saturn. They have a nonchalantness to them because they're emotionally aloof. In situations where other people take them too seriously, they almost have a roguish approach, a mischievous approach. And I think that's the playful air and the pursuit of knowledge, the curiosity, the childlike, I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do my way to learn what I need to learn, and there's no right or wrong choices as long as I'm learning. That's very much so the Aquarius style. So why a full moon? Full moons are always celebrated because they are the lunar phase of celebration, of culmination. They are this culminating point in the lunar cycle when all of our hard work and the seeds that we planted in the new moon have come to fruition. It's where we can see everything in the darkness. The night sky is lit up by this luminary, the moon, and we can celebrate, party, dance, enjoy life, and basically reap the benefits of what we have sowed in the weeks prior to this full moon. If you're somebody who is trying to get more in touch and live more cyclically with nature and the lunar phases, then you can watch my new moon series, where it touches on how to set new moon intentions and goals and work with the zodiac signs that the new moon falls in, set those intentions, and then pair them up with these full moon ritual videos of the appropriate sign. So it's always going to be, they're like bookends, the new moon and the full moon. A lot of the work that gets done on full moons is release work, celebratory work, inventory work, reflection, protection. The night sky is illuminated so we can see clearly, and symbolically we can see more into our subconscious, more into the things that we were unaware of before. Our awareness is now heightened because there's an illuminary in the night sky. I always like to mention that just because we're doing full moon magic or designing a ritual, it doesn't have to be serious. Full moons are often just used for celebration, a chance to rejoice in how far we've come, to take a look at what we've been working on, manifesting and growing in our lives, and to celebrate it, and to make appropriate adjustments if it's not what we're wanting. I know for myself, I have a tendency of taking rituals and full moons and things like that a little bit too seriously because they are an astrological event, and I feel like I have to do some type of intense ritual, or I have to get like my bang for my buck. But I think some of the most empowering moments I've had have been more free, more sporadic, more willy-nilly, and more lighthearted than the serious ones. It's really stepping into the energy that is at play when you have a full moon in Aquarius. Before we step into talking about correspondences and associations of Aquarius, I'm going to put up a pretty picture, give you guys a few minutes here just to take some notes. What does the Aquarius archetype mean to you? When I talk about it being a fixed air sign, the symbolisms of the ego and the soul serpents, or the maiden who is carrying the container of water representing the emotional realm and pouring it out, the intellectual container to hold space for the emotions of the world, the humanitarian pursuits of Aquarius. What does that bring up for you? Because like everything in the internet, we so quickly look to be told what to do, or told what the next step is, or told how something should feel, or what we should be expecting, without giving ourselves the space to sink into our knowing. What does Aquarius mean for you? Do you agree that Aquarius can be lighthearted, or do you resonate more strongly with the fact that you feel like the archetype is aloof? Is it the curiosity and the intellectual approach to gaining knowledge, or the futuristic humanitarian hopefulness of Aquarius that you're drawn to? What part of this archetype are you going to focus on and then build your ritual off of? Once you've established that about the Aquarius archetype, you have to do the same thing with the full moon. Are you going to be doing some protection magic? Are you going to be doing defensive, purging, clearing? What part of the full moon energy, what part of this archetype are you wanting to call upon? I'm going to give you a few moments for you to get clear on your intentions and what aspects you're wanting to utilize from the full moon energy as well as the Aquarius archetype. I'll meet you back here to talk about some associations, correspondences, and give you my ritual suggestions. The first associations we're going to cover are the physiological systems and body parts that are associated with Aquarius. For one, it is your ankles, your circulatory systems, your pineal gland, as well as your shins. So if you're wanting to do any kind of a body work or to adorn yourself or your body in order to approach this ritual, calling in more of the Aquarius archetype and energy, you could do things like wear anklets or give yourself a leg massage, maybe book a massage if that's something you're wanting to do. But working with your ankles, your shins, your circulatory system, get that blood pumping. Colors associated with Aquarius are sky blue, turquoise, pale yellow, and teal. Wear these colors, decorate your altar in these colors, pick specific crystals that are these colors. Metals associated with the Aquarius archetype are aluminum, uranium, and lead. Some foods that are associated with Aquarius are things like chilies and peppers, anything that has a very distinct and sharp, almost pungent, intense flavor. Something that has a flavor that is unmistakably its own. Some plant allies or correspondences of Aquarius would be mandrake, orchid, hops, passion flower, and golden rain. Rowan, myrrh, frankincense, and fruit trees in general. Some animal associations for Aquarius would be the eagle, peacocks, albatrosses, or any kind of like seafaring bird that flies long distances. The season associated with Aquarius is winter. Aquarius's numbers are 2, 3, and 4. Some gems associated with Aquarius would be garnet, amber, aquamarine, malachite, and lapis lazuli. The day of the week associated with Aquarius is Saturday. The tarot card associated with Aquarius is the star. You can use the day of the week if you happen to miss the exact day that the full moon is on, or using the symbolism of the animals, having bird feathers, eagles, painting images that call in these animal archetypes. Putting the star tarot card on your altar or designing an entire spread around the star. When you're opening up your ritual, if you just read the description of the star, then you are essentially invoking Aquarius archetype. The beauty of the association of the tarot cards for me is that they're so accurate. They're so in-depth. The hope and the almost innocent pursuit of more, of better that the star represents, the light in the dark, really speaks to the humanitarian, futuristic energy that Aquarius possesses. It's like that childlike hope and pursuit of something good. The faith. It's the faith in humanity. For some gods or goddesses, there's Nut, Athena, and Juno that you could call upon to work with the Aquarius archetype. Now that we covered a few correspondences and tools that you might use to engage, call in, and otherwise embody the Aquarius archetype, let's cover some ritual ideas and ways that we might utilize this energy. Now, this might seem weird, and it might be an out there suggestion, but I'm going for it because I feel like it's on par with the full moon in Aquarius energy right now. But throwing a party for your select group of people, a little bit of a larger party than you're used to, right? Like that big group, bringing weird different dynamics and social groups together for like a costume party or some kind of bizarre gathering. Like having a group of eccentric friends gather on a full moon in Aquarius would be like the recipe for weird breakthroughs. So there's always that celebratory aspect to working with the full moon. Really getting to the bottom of some unconscious or subconscious patterning in your life. Because the full moon is a luminary, you could do journal prompts, writing, or even just free flow writing to really kind of call in some of those limiting beliefs, and not even call in, but bring to light some of those limiting beliefs so that you can use this focused, intellectual, curiosity-driven time of Aquarius to get to the bottom of some of the things that might be holding you back, otherwise called shadow work. Get in there. If you have big plans for the future, if you have some event coming up, or even just a whole shift in your life that you are uncertain about or nervous about, working with the full moon in Aquarius would be a great time to do some protective magic, some defensive kind of preventative measures around those big hopes and dreams. Use this time to preserve your inner child faith in yourself or in your dream or in the group that you're putting together, you know? Using this time to protect what is vulnerable and sacred and still in the baby phase so that it doesn't get squashed before it has a chance, kind of thing. Using the protective illuminary light to get clear on what's important to you and what you are hoping for, the direction you are moving in, and protecting it because it's important. Because Aquarius is an air sign, it's a great time to do any kind of divination that you've been putting off. If you're wanting to do a big spread to get clear on something specific. If there is some kind of social justice movement or political cause working with this full moon in Aquarius to send protection and basically good fortune or good luck to the people who are also fighting the good fight alongside you, sending out nothing but love and support for people who are out there fighting for human rights, any cause that you believe in and want to assist with, but maybe have not been able to send money or go and attend in person, or are otherwise incapable of contributing in person or financially. Contributing energetically, sending thoughts and prayers is as old as it comes when it comes to magic. Making and casting that circle and praying over a candle and sending love and protection to the people who are alongside you in whatever fight you're fighting, that's powerful stuff. And because the energy of Aquarius is so harmonizing and brings together such a large group and doesn't require everyone in that group to fit in and be the same, it celebrates the individualness and encourages it and praises it and tries to preserve it. So sending out some protection magic or just good vibes and prayers to people who are fighting the humanitarian causes that you believe in is a great way to spend this full moon. I touched on it already, but shadow work, whatever type of shadow work that you are in the middle of doing, whether that might be inner child dream work. Did your inner child have some dream that has yet to be achieved? Does it need to be told and worked with and encouraged to pursue those dreams? Can you allow yourself to show up and play and be free and be curious and inquisitive about the world again? What do you need to let yourself be enthusiastic and jump both feet into some new intellectual pursuit? Is your inspiration waning? These full moons are perfect for self-reflection. Are you focused, clear, and attentive to the areas of your life that you feel called to? Does your whole life need a redirect? These are some of the questions you could ask yourself during an Aquarius full moon and journal about it. Being an air sign, communicating and getting ideas flowing is Aquarius's forte. It wants to know more, it wants to learn more, and it is very, very eager to learn and sink its teeth into something. So be that shadow work, be it a new venture, be it a new social group, or going shopping and getting a new outfit. You can apply that tenacity for knowledge, that tenacity for to really get it, the mastery behind it, the eccentricity. Let yourself be lost in some crazy new endeavor and really enjoy it. If you're somebody who has a lot of Aquarius placements and I'm explaining all of this and you're thinking, hey, I don't know if I need to embrace those traits this coming full moon, and you're looking to maybe more bring some balance to the Aquarius energy in your life, try socializing in smaller groups where you are basically forced out of your comfort zone and have to interact on a more personal level. Instead of speaking to 10 people at once, speak to 2 people at once. Put yourself in those situations and call up closer friends that you've maybe been neglecting the quality time aspect of your relationship. Another suggestion for this full moon, if you're trying to tone back some of those more intense Aquarius traits, would be allow certain people in your life to really get to know you. The people who have been around and proven that they care, it might be a time to confide in them a little bit more than you're comfortable with doing. Allowing people to see who you really are, even if you know you're a little crazy or eccentric, would be a good practice for this full moon. As always, I hope you found this video useful. I hope these associations and correspondences set you on the right track for your full moon ritual. Live long and prosper, and I will see you all again very shortly. Bye!